the use of good width. More often than not, when we're learning how to play the game of squash, we're often told that cross courts can be very dangerous. In my opinion, a good cross court can be actually the best shot in the game, but a bad cross court can be one of the worst. And a lot of the times what ends up putting us under pressure is actually a poor cross court, which enables our opponent to volley in the middle of the court. So what we need to be really aware of is the width that we are hitting. I've seen many players use the width in an attacking way, but I've also seen them use really good width in a defensive way. And when I think of the defensive width and thinking about how we hit around our opponent, one of the things that comes to mind is that when you're being dragged to the front of the court and you feel very anxious about hitting a straight ball here, okay, because we're worried about hitting into a stroke or we're worried about not hitting the ball tight, is that we more often than not hit a cross. Now, what's really important, especially under high pressure situations, is that when we feel more pressure, our cross becomes more narrow. Our cross is not wide enough. And at this moment, it's one of those things where you can't, the wider you hit across, actually the better. It relieves more pressure. It relieves more stress. So, being able to understand your angles, specifically in times of pressure, being able to have the opportunity, you need to be able to put yourself in the right position to be able to hit a shot like this, but being able to hit good width to get around your opponent's volley is actually going to end up putting more pressure on them after they exerted the pressure off on you. So just imagine your opponent takes you up to the front of the court, they're looking for that either straight ball or maybe that narrow cross, and all of a sudden you're able to hit the ball wide around them. All of a sudden now they're going back and having to play a shot which they're uncomfortable with, and all of a sudden your movement then has gone from here back to a place, a position of power, as we would say, or a really positive position where you could put pressure on your opponent. One of the ways in which we can work on that, especially specifically from the front of the court, is two players are drilling, player from the back hits a drive to himself, then he hits a boast up to the front of the court. So as they see the boast comes in, that player who just boasted is just going to try to volley the cross court. So we need to make sure, right, that that cross is wide here. So when we do boast, cross, drive, more often not that person's cheating right there. So we have to change the angle of the cross. And when we do this drill, more often than not, the cross comes up the middle. It comes through the court. So what I actually want is a sharper angle towards the sidewall. I want that ball to break almost towards where the service line meets the sidewall to give that person a really uncomfortable half volley, or maybe even having to go back and play a chipped straight drive option, right? So those routines sometimes they get monotonous in a way that the people know where the ball's going. And actually, it's good that they know where the ball's going, because in this case, when you're over hitting your cross court, you're getting that feeling of, wow, that was a good width. And so sometimes we want to over exaggerate, kind of over hit that angle in order to make sure it gets past our opponent.